Hey friends, this is MrsVolfie from our half-acre homestead, and it's the end of canning season, or the garden canning season. And today we're canning rutabagas and carrots. There is a good 15 pounds of turnips, washed, well, mostly washed, and sliced, and waiting to be peeled. Here are the carrots. I got a nice big, almost a sink full here. Here's my 5-gallon pail of neeps. I got one canner ready here with the required amount of water in the bottom and a splash of white vinegar to keep the jars from clouding. Here is my blanching water, and here are my jars fresh out of the dishwasher. I don't like the looks of that one either. Always check your jars. Even though you scrub them and put them through the dishwasher, you still have, I always rinse mine when they come out of the dishwasher and inspect them. So while we're waiting for the blanching water for the rutabagas, we're going to fill up these jars with a handful of carrots. Now I raw pack these carrots. There's no need to blanch them or they go mushy. But turnips have to be blanched for 3 to 5 minutes. Especially when they're in chunks like the sizes I'm using. Now, I'm probably going to get a whole lot more than I bargained for, but that's okay. We love mashed turnips and carrots. Yes, I know, they're rutabagas, but in Canada, they're called turnips. So, but I like to mash, I like sweet when they're sweet, so I like to add carrots. Whoops. I like to add carrots so that when I empty the jar after I heat it up, I just have to mash everything together. Add a little bit of salt and pepper and butter, and it's all good to go. Only at like Christmas and Thanksgiving do I add a little bit of brown sugar. Yeah, I'm going to have carrots left over too, so I'm going to have to wash more jars. But that's okay. More is better than less, right? When it comes to, you know, packing the pantry. Whoops. I'm firing stuff all over the place. Yes, I am going to have carrots left over, which means I'm going to have turnips left over, which means we're going to have more than these jars. But we're going to start with what we start. And since our blanching water is not boiling yet, I'm going to start. I don't put a lot of salt. I only put like a ½ teaspoon in each jar. But we'll just get that in ahead of time. Oh, making a mess. Get this in ahead of time so that it's one less thing we have to do once the neeps are on the way. Okay, our water is boiling. And now I'm just going to start dropping turnips in. They've got to come to a boil and simmer for 3 to 5 minutes, especially when they're nice big chunks like this. I'm just putting them in this way because I'm getting tired of trying to lift buckets and safely dumping them in water. But there's the first batch. We're going to bring this up to a boil and then simmer it for 3 to 5 minutes. Okay, here's our blanched rutabagas. Our jars, I've washed and added more with carrots and salt in them. Lids, rings. Yeah, I'm tired. The canner ready to go and another pot of water beginning to boil for those ones. Well, let me see if I can fit all of this in for you guys to see. Now, I think we can do that. Sorry about the steam. Okay, they all have salt in them now. So, I'm just going to start filling these over here. And I have a kettle on of hot water. I use the, I like using the wide mouth jars first because they be bigger. Give that a little shake. Gonna add a little bit more here. A couple more pieces. Alrighty. 1 inch from the top. We have salt in here. Oh, I forgot my always. Always debubble. You don't have to be fancy. I'm using a pastry brush. Just try not to use anything metal. You know, use a chopstick or a wooden spoon handle or something plastic. Always wipe your rims with a clean damp paper towel. On goes the lid and into the canner that goes. Okay, I got 6 quarts of rutabagas and carrots in the canner, and I'll be right back because before I put the lid on that canner, let's turn this water off for a minute. I got to get the rest of these turnips into the blanching pot. Looks like I might get an even 14 jars. I thought I was gonna get more, but you know what? Doesn't look that way. So, as soon as this pops up, and this is spouting a steady stream of steam, I will set my timer and vent the canner for 10 minutes. You vent the canner for 10 minutes for the simple reason is you've got to push the air out of the canner or you won't get a proper vacuum. Never skip a step once you've been taught how to do it. We're going to get the second canner going while we wait for our canner to vent. Okay, so now it's venting a steady stream of steam, and we're going to set our timer without burning ourselves, hopefully, for 10 minutes. And that's going to vent for 10 minutes while we fill this canner. And while we're waiting for those things to do their thing, I am going to continue filling jars. I'm not going to be putting lids on them. I'm going to get this down to 7 jars for the other canner. So that is 4. We need these. It's a good thing I only put a half a teaspoon of salt in each jar. That looks good. Looks good. So now I'm going to top these up with rutabagas. But I'm going to do it a little more smart. It's not quite enough for a, it's too much for a pint and not quite enough for a 1 liter, so we're doing it in 1 liter. And if for any reason I don't have enough turnips for all 7 jars, well then, we'll top them up with carrots. Let's just see. Maybe we'll only get... There is our timer. I'm putting the 10-pound weight. Now remember, if you have... Pay attention to your manufacturer's directions, folks. Mine, I live less than 1,000 feet above sea level, so mine is a 10-pound weight. If you live more than 1,000 feet above sea level, your weights and measurements and times may change. Okay, so as soon as we get a vigorous jiggle, we're going to time these for 35 minutes. 25 or 30 minutes for pints. But I'm only doing quarts, so that's the only one I actually looked at. 2, 4, 6, 7 jars. I'm not going to put the water or anything in them until they're ready to go in the canner. There's the first vigorous jiggle. But did you see what that was doing just before it did the vigorous jiggle? That little that's what you want. So we're going to turn this down between medium and maximum. And we're just going to let it do its business and set the timer up for 35 minutes. Okay, the timer has gone off on our canner here. And we're going to let this cool down naturally. Do not jiggle the weight. Do not try and take the lid off. For God's sakes, do not try and take the lid off. Do not immerse it in cold water. Don't wrap it in wet towels. Nothing. You just let it cool naturally. Letting your canner cool naturally is part of the canning process. And there it is, folks. 19 quarts of carrots and turnips. Now, I get asked this a lot. Sometimes water will get pushed out. Especially when you're working with a stove like mine that is falling apart. Thank you, Whirlpool. But sometimes water will get pushed out if the temperature can be uneven or anything like that. But as long as your jars are sealed, you should have no problem. 19 more quarts for the pantry. The last garden canning of the year. This is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, I'm exhausted. And, but yay, it's done for another year. I survived another year of gardening and canning. Mwah! Take care. God bless. Neeps and carrots, naturally sweet together.